This program is brought to you by Tab. Download the app today.
Hello, I'm Caroline Searcy. Welcome to a new week of my thoroughbred rehoming program, Thoroughbreds Are Go, aiming to assist racing owners rehome their thoroughbreds and encourage the uptake of this wonderful, athletic and intelligent breed in the equestrian world. This week there are two super stories to bring you. Firstly, the dedication of Steve and Eliza Grant at Silverdale Farm in the Southern Highlands of New South Wales in looking after their retired racehorses and also training up a new generation of thoroughbred lovers through their Silverdale Academy Internships. And one of Australia's elite three-day eventers, Tim Boland, who also pre-trains racehorses for some of Australia's biggest owners and breeders. He has some strong words about how much more needs to be done to safeguard our horses out of racing. And a gorgeous grey from the John Thompson stable in Arrowfield Studs, Strappers Stories. That's all coming up on a packed show of Thoroughbreds Are Go. Silverdale Farm is one of Australia's most beautiful and progressive thoroughbred properties, producing elite racehorses such as 2022 Golden Slipper winner Fireburn. Steve and Eliza Grant are passionate about the horses they breed, and they've returned many of them to the farm over the years. And they're just as passionate about creating that love in a new generation of stud staff with their Silverdale Academy Internships. Steve, this is just a magnificent showpiece property, isn't it, Silverdale Farm? And in a short space of time, you've made it into just a fabulous place for horses to be born, to be raised, and then to return to after their racing days.
Yeah, very much so, Carolyn. It's been a labour of love because it's something I've done most of my life is in construction and building horse facilities for other people. So it's just great to be able to design your own, particularly with the help of Rob, who's our manager. And he and I put a lot of work in the design and then through the execution and coming up with the right product that works very much for the horse and for the handler. So there's considerations for safety and efficiency and making it just so it's a place where everyone's happy. The horses are happy and the staff are happy. And you have a real passion for caring for horses when they finish their racing days. Oh, very much so.
It really is such a vital part of the thoroughbred racing and breeding industry, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. For us, you know, we're selling yearlings, and when we present those yearlings, we want them to be the favourite then. And as Eliza puts it, right through their life. So the favourite on the track, and we want them to be the favourite after the track. So it's really educating the horse for their life at a sale, when they get into the breaker, and when they go to the trainer, and through their life, and then when they're finished. If you can imagine someone turning up and one horse is well behaved and everything else, they're going to choose them. And we want the person to take that horse home, treat them with their as a friend, and work with the horse, enjoy their equine activities, whether it be show jumping or lead classes or whatever happens to be, and that horse will be the favourite. So it's great for us when we sell a horse and we get a report from the breaker, and I can't tell you how many times it happens. Rob will ring up and say, have a look at this report, and the breaker says, this is my favourite horse. Or the trainer says, he's a real favourite in the yard. And it's obvious that if you've got that horse that is the favourite in the yard, they're going to get a handler that looks after them and cares for them and be great friends with them. So for us, educating them at the start, right the way through, so that they end up being the favourite.
And you have a couple of really good rehoming stories. I mean, Hot and Soxy is this lovely mare, a half-sister of Vaucluse Bay, who we'll look at very shortly. But she had 7 starts, no placings. She won $575. And you actually sold her. But tell us the story of how you came to bring her home.
Yeah, so Eliza raced her with a group of 10 friends. She didn't perform that well, so we sold her to a country trainer, and off she went to sort of continue her career in an area where she might be able to earn a bit of prize money for the new owners, etc. Anyway, it was a couple of years later that a friend, Nicole, who works for Laurel Oak, rang and said that she'd noticed her in an auction that was up at Cairns, and she didn't have much of a reserve and wasn't even going to make that. So I put together a plan that we'd buy her. I'd bring her back for Eliza to have as a horse on the farm. So we kept her for a few weeks and tidied her up and had her very presentable. And I got all the payments back in one go when I asked Liza to walk down to the bottom paddock and have a look what was down there. You could see when she stopped and recognised her to who it was, and then come running back with the tears rolling down her eyes that I'd got Hot and Soxy back for her. So she had a home for life here, but and Liza was keen to breed from her. So although she didn't win a race, we put her in foal, and now she's got a colt by Tosin Starden, and Gary Portelli's training, and his name is Fire Alarm. So we'll see how it goes, and you got some vision earlier today of her new foal by Star Witness. We love the horse. You'd hate anything to sort of go wrong, so you want to make sure that you're taking care of them, and that's what I say in our training process. When they're weanlings and when they're going through for yearling education, we're very much conscious of the fact that we want that horse to be trained for life. So it's a whole of life experience.
Vaucluse Bay in front from Rakeek. It's Vaucluse Bay still in front. One tough victory that.
And the other horse, the half-brother to Hot and Soxy, Vaucluse Bay, a year younger, and he was kind of the opposite of her in his racing career. He won 7 of 52 and placed 20 times and earned over $750,000. What were your thoughts at that time?
He was a loyal servant to us, and that's probably the bottom line. When it got to the point that he was getting a little bit tired of racing, it wasn't a hard decision for us, particularly with that family, to bring him home and find a new job for him. And that new job is a nanny. And he's doing a great job. Some of the vision you got earlier today of how those fillies that he's with now respect him, and they'll just follow him anywhere and do anything. It's the craziest thing when you tell some people that a lot of the times the geldings make the best nannies. Yeah. But to see the way they rule the land, and they educate those young horses that you're not okay to stand in the water trough, or not okay to do this, and they really take to their jobs. The ones that know do know. And his mother, Power of Love, she was a nanny and until she finished. And she was in charge of the girls one year, and he was in charge of the boys. Brilliant stuff.
Great story. And he really looks healthy, and it's really great. The yards you have, which we've actually filmed up at Darley Stud, and it's really clever to be able to examine all those foals as they come in and really look at them carefully. Plus, the important thing for your nanny is that he's not getting too fat, eating all their high sort of energy food and foundering or anything like that. Tell us about that.
So I noticed that on an Instagram shot one day, and rang up Alistair and asked he and Barley Ward Thomas about it. With yearlings, it's that thing for us. Like, yes, you can get the competition when you're feeding them out in a paddock, but it's not the competition you want for that horse. You want them competing to run and gallop together. To me, the feeding part's such a science that you've got to give it to them as an individual. It was a good investment because you get to see that horse at close quarters 4 times a day. So that's what we have now for our yearlings. And of course, for Vaucluse Bays and the other nannies, it's great. We can keep them on a strict diet, keeps him healthy, and he looks great. It adds for a long life for him, enjoyable life too. Success is a different thing for each person. So I say the best measure of success is contentment. So everyone aims for something different. So if you want to be the richest guy in the world, it's going to be a hard road. But if you want to find that contentment point where you set yourself some goals and you want to work with horses, or you want to be the best rider, or that sort of thing, it's up to yourselves to set that.
You're talking about sort of a whole of life approach, and that includes humans. So your Silverdale Farm Academy, you're training up these young interns or students who are coming here in collaboration with TAFE, which is fabulous. So tell us a bit more about what we saw today. So you addressed the students, and then we saw Alistair Henskins, who's the state member for everything from sport, skills, enterprise, everything. And it was fabulous to see him, and Nathaniel Smith down here as well, who's the local member in Wallandilly, and Wendy Tuckerman from Goulburn. I mean, it's so important what you're doing with the students, but to show politicians that our industry is really looking towards the future.
Yeah, it's very much important to keep the industry going through, to have to invest in training. And that's one thing the Minister was interested in is from our point of view, what started us? How did we think it was our responsibility? I think if you go back on my history and my time with TAFE, you know, I needed to leave school, I had to get out. It's highly important to have staff coming through, but also to pass on that knowledge and to give kids the opportunity to do something other than go for those jobs of a lawyer or a doctor, how good they are. But there's kids that aren't suited to that, like I wasn't suited to it at all. And this is our part of doing that and passing on that knowledge in the industry. And it's a great opportunity for kids that their parents as well don't know is available. Our industry is the third largest employer in Australia. And they've got so many jobs, from horticulture to track maintenance to event management to media to all sorts of things, not only horses themselves, but we don't tell people. And this is what it's up to us to do as an industry, to expand that knowledge and to expand that training and provide the opportunities. And it'll come back to us as far as providing people that will work for us in the future. So for instance, my background as a builder, all the apprentices were employed by the master builders. They would have one employer, but they would go and work for a number of different builders. Well, maybe we should be doing something like that, where we can provide employment that's consistent, they keep their award conditions and things, and they retain their sick leave, etc., and their holidays, but they work for a number of different trainers. So they might work for someone for 3 to 6 months, might work for someone else for 12 months. The trainer gets to work out who he likes working with as far as their staffing is concerned, but they retain the same employer. So it's a great system, and we'll see if it works in our industry. And we've got great people like Antoinette Inglis, for instance, who comes to do our night watch, and it was great to see her here today, still working. But you know, kids that start off here and work through our system, it's a good system and it works well. It's the whole of the industry's responsibility, and I think you'll see us trying to bring that together. And whether we run Silverdale in 5 years, the Academy, or the Academy's passed on to someone else, we'll see where that ends up. But all we're looking to do is enhance the conditions for our industry and for those who look to train to be in it.
So great to spend time with people so invested in the thoroughbred industry and its future, as Steve and Eliza Grant and the team at Silverdale Farm. Coming up after the break on Thoroughbreds Go, a voice of great experience in thoroughbred care in both the racing and equestrian worlds, Tim Boland. Tim Boland has forged a long and successful career as one of Australia's best three-day eventers, and these days he focuses a lot of his time and attention on Limitless Lodge, pre-training some of Australia's elite racehorses for leading owners and trainers. But given his experience with off-track thoroughbreds, he's well worth listening to about the way forward for the care and welfare for this great breed in Australia. Tim, Limitless Lodge is just a fabulous facility for pre-training thoroughbreds, for looking after horses when they've come off the track, for schooling eventers as well. You've set up a fantastic place for thoroughbreds.
Thanks, Caroline. I'm very proud of it, that's for sure. And it's sort of evolved. It's 3 farms now and 30 staff and 150 horses, up to 200 at yearling sale time. Yeah, so I'm very proud of the facility and nice to know we're recognised by others. This is GV Billy Elliott. He's 20 years old. He was travelling reserve for the Australian Olympic team at the London Olympics. And he's a star, total star.
And you're one of the few people who sort of crosses over at the elite level between, you know, being a three-day eventer at the highest level and also, of course, breaking in and pre-training some of the best bred and best performed racehorses we've seen in Australia. But just take us back through your equestrian life. Tell people that don't know a lot about the Tim Boland story, about how you've competed in eventing.
I was just a particularly sporty guy. You know, when I was through school, like I went to school in Sydney at Knox, and my sister was a superhero with horses, and I was falling off and generally supremely untalented. But I was very persistent. I loved the sport. I had very supportive parents. Had a bit of success with the first good horse we bought, a thoroughbred off the track. We bought a Maitland. Turned out to be a very good horse, and my next 2 or 3 good horses were all thoroughbreds too. So the transition into racehorses came about just through support of owners giving me a go, and I couldn't believe they'd trust me with their racehorses, and it just stemmed from that. So I was originally doing naughty horses, problem horses. They said to me, "Would you do our good horse?" I said, "Yeah, I'll do your good horse." It costs as much for a good horse as a bad horse. Business sprung from there, and our facilities changed, and we moved out of Sydney, on the northern beaches of Sydney in Terry Hills, Duffy's Forest, and moved up to the Central Coast and used to rent properties all around me, but now we're settled on 3 farms. Interestingly, my farm, Limitless Lodge, is named after my best horse, Limitless, at the time. I went on to have another couple of stars, but at the time of naming the farm, Limitless was a great name. I remember the horse racing for Royce in New Zealand. I just had it in my mind, won the Summer Cup, and whenever I had a top horse, I was going to call it Limitless. And I got a top horse, I named him Limitless, and my farm's named Limitless Lodge, which has been a great name.
But SBN is starting to open up the shoulders now.
And the talent of the horses that you have here. I mean, even at the moment, just looking around the farm, we have the beautiful Espiona, who's just a superstar race mare herself, and she's spelling really well, which augurs well, hopefully, for her future campaign. And Think It Over as well, another Group 1 winner, who's just such a gorgeous, so you think, sort of look-alike too. And it's so great to see them here, and they are elite. Their futures are limitless.
Yeah, it's just fun that these trainers and owners are happy to trust me with their best horses. So I take that very seriously, and I know they're a big investment and they're very important to not just the owners and trainers, but the racing public. So I'm keen to do a good job for them.
You've been around the world, you've seen other pre-training facilities, your track that you're working these horses on just gives them a good solid sort of workout. We saw Niffler as well, who was having a canter around your work track. Explain sort of the setup of your facilities for these pre-trainers and horses you're breaking in.
All my pre-training revolves around dressage. Dressage is important for every horse that comes through Limitless Lodge, a breaker, a pre-trainer. I can't think in this day and age that anyone says no to a horse doing dressage. We see all these top trainers doing it. It's not essential, but it's such a good thing to do. And we don't charge any more or less to do it. So dressage is important to us. But we're very fortunate. We've got those facilities, indoor arenas, jumping paddocks, but our track is great, a great surface, and the water walker is another tool that we have.
Yeah, the water walk is fantastic too, and they just seem to adapt to it really well. And we could see these horses getting up to a bit of a trot. You know, they're actually doing a lot of work when they're in there.
Well, yes, they do interval training in the water walker. It's been a great tool. We can use it for all kinds of things. So I can never get their legs as cold any other way than putting them in the water walker. If they come out of there with heat, we've got a problem.
And then your spelling facilities too. I mean, you know, I love seeing horses with shelters. I know some people say, oh, they don't really use them. Well, most of them do, and at some time or other, they're a great benefit, and they're lovely, big, open sort of, you know, paddocks for them just to relax, and it's very quiet.
The spelling farm we're very proud of. Like, it's not a saddle or a bridle on the joint. It's all about just horses R&R. They're at a 5-star resort. We've got great staff over there, and that's just an independent operation.
And the gorgeous Zoo Star solar charged colt, I was so pleased. I love going through stables such as this, and you find these absolute gems. He sold for $3 million at the Inglis Easter Yearling sale, and we featured him in our preview for that sale too at Widden Stud. And even now, looking at him a little bit further down the track, he still has that lovely jowl, and he's so masculine. How's he coming along?
He's a real character. Like, I've undersold him. I didn't look at the yearling sale results. I tell everyone he's one of our $1 million colts, but $3 million colt, Caroline tells me. We'll pay particular attention now. But he's just a straightforward, lovely horse, always has been. Very happy with him.
But of course, they're not all going to be superstars, are they? And one in particular, Seaway, who you were in the ownership of as well, who won a Winter Challenge last preparation, and Loophole as well for Deb Capitas. I mean, these horses are in the peak of condition. And tell us what you're doing with them now.
I'm very invested with life after racing for racehorses. I see the good and the bad of what happens after racing. These horses are very fortunate. They've got wonderful owners and they'll do anything for them. They've had some great highs in racing and they're very happy to understand that when their racing time has come, they give them such a great home. So we've got Anthony Galgates, Debbie Capitas, Denise Martin, some just wonderful owners who are just, Greg Perry's in fact got my best horse, who's currently in England now, a thoroughbred by Smart Missile. So we're hoping for enormous things from him. He's had a great season competing in England and just wonderful to have these owners on board.
What are some of the major problems you see in people trying to rehome horses in Australia at the moment?
It's a good question, but communication is the answer for sure. Like they're going to have various things. Some are going to be ongoing problems, some are going to be very manageable problems, and some it's going to make into the perfect horse. So, but liaising with the trainer is the most important thing for anyone wanting to get a horse off the track. They'll be so straightforward and tell you what's going on, is my experience. It's a real talking point what to do with horses after they're finishing racing. Not all of them are going to find their way to an equestrian life. There's so many avenues for these horses to go. I mean, we've spoken about them before, eventing, showing, dressage, jumping. But some of them might just not be up to that, so we need to have a solution. And I think having the farms is great, but that opens another problem. We need to have the staff. We need to have experienced, good staff to look after these horses. So that's where probably some funds should go towards manning these farms with good people.
And you employ, around 30 odd staff here. What do you see as being the best way to get new staff?
Peter Volandis makes mountains move. We need his help here big time. Every stable, every farm needs more and better staff. There are people desperate to come to the country. They can't get the appropriate visa, which is such a shame. Racing is such a big contributor to the economy, and we need staff. We're happy to train staff. We can bring in a bunch of already trained staff. We just need Peter Volandis to do his thing, and Racing New South Wales can be a leader in that department as well as every other department.
When people do take on ex-race horses, we see a lot of people in the equestrian world who are so passionate. We see these great shows that are happening. Do you see that there's a real need for more education about the breed in the equestrian world?
I don't think so. It gets a lot of coverage now. The off-the-track thoroughbred is a well-recognised thing, and like you say, there are plenty of shows where it's solely for off-the-track thoroughbreds. But what I think we need to do is what we've done in the eventing world. Like, money has gone towards the pinnacle of the sport. And you think, wow, that seems a bit elitist and a bit sort of not right. Well, what it's done, it has made everybody so competitive. These young rider programs haven't worked that fantastic in Australian eventing. But pouring money into the top guys has made everyone very hungry to be competing with those top guys. Go to the big shows, be competitive.
And you mentioned people, that we can see are really passionate about rehoming their horses, and it matters to their owners. Denise Martin with Star Thoroughbreds, Deb Capitas, we know she's passionate about the horses she's bred for so many years, Anthony Galgates, Greg Perry. How do you get other owners to be as passionate?
These people are pretty special, and what you need to know about owners like this, and we have a few of them, is you can tell them good news, you can tell them bad news. They are all about the horse. And they're just so wonderful to deal with all the time. Not just in good times, not just winning Group 1 races, when things don't go to plan at all. They just love the horse.
The brain of the thoroughbred, they're keen to be doing something. You don't want them just necessarily going and retiring, a lot of them, just to do nothing in a paddock. They have a lot to give.
I agree. I think horses, very few horses like just bumming around in a paddock doing nothing. I think that they're a competitive animal, and I think it's great to give them another go at something else.
And I guess some owners still have the belief, if something goes wrong with a horse, if it's injured or it's retired, that suddenly they stop paying bills. It doesn't work like that, does it?
No. As a guy who runs a farm, they also suddenly think they don't have to pay for it either. So all of a sudden an injury happens, it suddenly becomes the farm owner's problem. That's disappointing. So there needs to be some owner recognition. I've been involved with syndicates, and a horse has lost form, and he just decides to abandon his shares, cease communication, and you just think, wow. You just think about, you do that to your children. If they get an injury, you just drop your children. I don't think so. Hopefully we could get some support to follow these people up, but that's not a good look for our industry.
So how can we get owners to understand that responsibility at the end of a horse's career?
I think we need to make them aware at the very beginning. Like Hong Kong's got a good model. I know their system's very different to ours. But when they buy a horse, like I'm involved with the Hong Kong Jockey Club International Sales, so when they buy a horse at that sale, they need to be signing up then and there for their aftercare when they finish racing. So whether we're able to do something like that in Australia, I don't know, but geez, it's a good idea.
Some real food for thought there, and some great incisive comments from Tim Boland about how we should be looking after our thoroughbreds off the track. Coming up after the break on Thoroughbreds Go, a stunning grey who's found a great new home in Arrowfield Studs. Strapper Stories.
Battenburg has been around for quite some time, obviously, and when I started working for John almost 2 years ago, he was one of the first horses that I really took to. He's just a magnificent beast. It was fun to be around, always a happy horse, whether it was swimming, coming off the track, anything like that. Just a great guy to be around. Keeping Grace grey is always a lot of work. You know, he was really sweet. He was always wanting attention. You know, you go into his box of a morning and he'd just want to stand there on you. He loved his work. Coming off the track every morning, he was bouncing around and having fun. When I took him to the pool or to the walker or anything, he was always happy as Larry, happy to be there. His new owner is one of my very good friends. He spelled him for a few months, brought him back in, just doing some flat work, getting him used to being backed regularly rather than just track work. He's doing really good. He's learning to collect himself and go over some poles, nothing too high yet. I mean, just seeing horses love their jobs is really nice to see. He enjoys what he does, he's made new friends, he's out in the paddock, just enjoying life.
That is Thoroughbreds Go. I hope you've enjoyed the show and learnt more about rehoming thoroughbreds away from the racetrack. Coming up on next week's show, we bring you some great stories from Thoroughbred Sport Horse Association's first national championships, a huge event with so many thoroughbreds competing for sensational prize money. Looking forward to that one. I'm Caroline Searcy. I'll see you then.
This program is brought to you by Tab. Download the app today.